Well, good afternoon, Miss Hawkins. Thank you for taking this time to meet with me today. Um, so, I was in your room and I sent you your feedback form. And your classroom, I just have to say, you have so many great systems in place. And I would love to say everybody gets 100, but of course we always have room for improvement. Anybody does. So
Right.
I just want to talk to you a little bit about um, what I observed. And you you were talking. Your lesson objective was a geometry lesson. Do you think by the end of the lesson did you achieve your learning objective?
I think mostly yes.
Okay.
There-
Um, were there any moments during this lesson where um, you felt students were especially engaged?
Yes. When we did um had the kids come up to the board and had them explain how they got their answer, and then when the other kids asked questions to those students about how they got their answer, it wasn't just the same kids asking every time. It was different kids asking both of the boys that were up there that were explaining their answers at that time.
And I have to tell you, I really like that of having students go to the board and do the problem and then justify how they got there.
Hmm.
And then there was a little bit of a debate with the student
Hmm.
of, okay, is
Which
this
one was
one
right?
right? Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I really like that because then it really showed the person at the board had to justify how they got there. Then there were the ones that were asking the questions, and they kind of had to justify why they were answering the questions the way they did. So I really liked that. I really like that. Um, I know you were going around the room and you were checking for understanding with different students, but they were asking you questions because they didn't understand.
Right.
How did you, I know you did an exit ticket at the end of the lesson, but how did you assess through the lesson if all students were understanding what the lesson was about?
With them being in the groups, they were able to, if one student was having a trouble with one problem, but their group buddy got that, then that group buddy went over and helped and explained it in a different way than I did. To me, that tells me that that student understood what I was teaching instead of just me seeing it on paper written. They can
Okay.
explain it.
Now, I do have to ask about your groupings. And I noticed that it was all a group of boys, all a group
Mhm.
of girls. Um, is there any strategy to that where they just kind of sitting with, hey, these are my buddies,
No,
or
it's flexating. They
okay,
sit with who they're comfortable with.
okay. Do you think you could incorporate opportunities for collaboration, like where students get up and move? And, maybe something like four corners when they're trying to do a question or something like that to see
Yeah,
who,
and I could definitely do it based off of if one if a kid scored higher on one question type, and another kid scored lower, I could group them like that way
okay. So
and mixing it up.
a lower learner with a higher learner.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that strategy too. Um, I did like how it was with your seating, they could collaborate with each other.
Hmm.
And I liked the whole group collaborating with arriving at the one answer or the correct answer. Can you think of any other ways that there could be collaboration with this lesson?
Um, just changing up the groups, really. Changing up
Okay.
the groups, or instead of having all of the groups do every problem, have each group do one problem, and then mixing up the groups. And so group one had question 1, group 2 had question 2. I could have done, they just do question 1, and then the 4 from group 1 go, and then they each 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they collaborate that way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I saw this strategy where students were given the answer, okay, each in a group, and they had to work backwards from the answer. And have you ever thought about doing something like that with,
Mm-mm.
okay,
No, that's a really interesting take on that.
yeah,
I
if they
never
work
thought of-
backwards, then they
Yeah,
also learn how to check their work.
yeah, that's actually, I never thought about that.
Um, do you think that your classroom, you have great systems in place? Because I mean, there was no loss of instructional time with your transitions. How um, do you believe that your relationships with the students and your classroom management play a success into your success in students learning?
100%, because my kids know when, like, whenever they walk into my classroom, that I don't look at just the student. I look at the person, and getting to know the person and making my lessons relatable to them and their likes. They're more engaged into it, which makes them more successful. But they also know that I require a certain amount of discipline when coming into my classroom.
Okay. You gave students a homework assignment to go look something up that wasn't in their textbook.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard some students say, yeah. Did you think about giving them a pop quiz kind of thing about to assess if they went home and did their homework?
I thought about doing it as the warm up, but then I also, for students who might not have been able to look it up, I didn't want to put them on blast,
Okay.
and then having to explain, well, little Sally couldn't do that because X, Y, and Z. So why is it fair? She gets a pass and I don't, and I just completely
Well,
avoid it altogether.
and you're right. Our students' home lives are not equitable. Somebody
Right.
has internet, somebody doesn't, so you're right. Their home lives are not equitable like they are in a classroom.
Right.
I just really the only thing that I saw an opportunity for growth in your classroom is to break up that all the boys sitting together, all the girls sitting together.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was observing, I only saw one group of mixed of boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to kind of integrate them together and working with each other. So that's the only area that I thought, I mean, otherwise, I thought your lesson was phenomenal. And I just really I appreciate teachers like you.
Thank you.
So, do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Well, Miss Hawkins, I really thank you for um, meeting with me today, and I look forward to doing your observation later on in the year.
Thank you.
Great. Have a good day.
You too.